Hey guys, welcome to Electronic Dance Money, your number one business resource for making money as electronic musicians and producers. What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of Electronic Dance Money. I'm your I'm your host, Christian Casito, with my guest, James. How you doing, James Cross?
I'm doing really well. I'm having a great time so far. How about you, Christian?
Not too bad, man. I just had the sickest breakfast burrito ever. So I just went to Chicago a couple weeks. Was it? Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. And I had this place called, I had this breakfast burrito called Badass Breakfast Burrito. I don't know. Have you been to Chicago?
Yes, but only barely.
Dude, it's some of the best food I've ever. Okay, I thought Austin, Texas had the best food ever, but Chicago has some of the best food I've ever had, specifically this breakfast burrito. And I've been dreaming about it. And so I was like, you know what? Payday's today. I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to get a nice lunch. My girlfriend and I, we're going to order some lunch. And I went on Grubhub, and it was still on that Chicago address. And the first thing that popped up was that badass breakfast burrito. I was like, ooh, breakfast burrito sounds good. Let me put it in Austin, Texas. And they have a badass breakfast burrito here. That's the name of the restaurant. I was like, oh my God, they have it here. My dreams have come true. And I was like telling my girlfriend, I was like, this is going to be the best breakfast burrito you ever had. It's fantastic. I hyped it up too much for her. When I hype things up too much, she gets disappointed. Listen, it was still so damn good. Still one of the best breakfast burrito I've ever had. She was like, it's okay. It's a little too spicy. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. It was delicious. That's how my day's going so far.
Nice. Yeah, I had a similar experience in Chicago. I was on tour and we played. Is it Tinley Park? Is the amphitheater out there, or is that where Riot Fest is? I can't remember. There's an amphitheater, like a Live Nation shed outside Chicago, probably like 45 to an hour outside. And what was this place? There's a legendary vegan diner in Chicago, and I cannot remember the name of it. But basically, everyone was like, "We want food from this place." So a friend and I were like, "Okay, we are gonna Uber into the city, pick up our food because it's a call-in order, and then Uber back." We might have actually done Lyft. I prefer Lyft. Anyway, this is like 2015, so it doesn't matter. But the food was amazing, even cold, and everyone got a different meal, and we all got to try each other's stuff. Like somebody got chili, some people got sandwiches. It was so good. And I'm thinking Spiral Diner, but I know that's not it because that's in Dallas, or like the Dallas metro area.
I'm sure if I asked my buddy, he would know because he's a huge foodie. He lives. Oh my Lord, we're going to get into the episode in just a minute once we get through this little banter. But now that we're talking food real quick, in Chicago, my buddy lives on the river in like a skyrise apartment on the 48th floor. Like,
yeah.
Oh my, and he has the one of 3 balconies on his building. So it's like the view was unreal, and being like right in the middle of downtown Chicago was fantastic. Went to my first. You're super into baseball, right?
Yeah, kind of. I'm super into like local baseball, and I'm a Red Sox fan.
I went to my first MLB game while I was there at Wrigley Field, which was
nice,
fantastic. We got
legendary,
dude. We got $12 tickets right behind home base. Like,
how?
Crazy. It was. I'll have to send you videos. We were so close to the batter. It was wild. It was awesome. It was a great time.
That's incredible.
Anyways, let's actually get into the damn episode. Why we're hanging out talking today. So
real quick,
James,
I looked it up. It's the Chicago Diner.
The Chicago Diner.
Just in case anyone's wondering, I don't want to leave people hanging. It's the Chicago Diner.
I'm gonna have to ask my buddy if he's been there. He's, like I said, he's a super huge foodie and has eaten at some of the best restaurants there. So I'm sure he probably knows about it. But anyways, let's jump into today's episode, and we're going to be discussing some SubmitHub stuff. But first, James, let's talk about your background because you're not specifically involved with electronic music. And I've had a number of guests on that aren't involved in electronic music. And I think it's really good to bring on guests like you because you come from an outside perspective that a lot of producers, because I mean, you focus more on bands, and EDM producers are essentially bands. It's within their own niche and their own language. They call themselves DJs and producers, but you're essentially a band. So, and all the stuff we're talking about in the music industry, everything we have talked about, I'm sure everything you've talked about on your podcast, it all correlates with each other. It all works with each other. It's the music industry. It doesn't matter what genre you're in, whether you're a band or you're a singer-songwriter or you're a DJ, it doesn't matter what you are. It all kind of works with each other. So that's why I do really like bringing on these guests that come from an outside perspective that aren't involved specifically within our niche of the industry, because those outside perspectives bring a lot of really good quality content and ideas. So let's jump into first your background, how you got into music and how you got to where you are today. And then we'll start talking a little bit more about your SubmitHub background and why I wanted to bring you on and discuss SubmitHub. So the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for inviting me on the show. And basically, I am a jack of all trades, or have been a jack of all trades. I'm trying to change that now. And I don't even call myself a musician. I play music. I make music as, a mixing engineer for artists. I've put guitar work on songs for people, but I don't call myself a musician because playing music is not my career. So I make that distinction. Other people might call me a musician. But I did a little bit of everything. Back in the day, I got started in radio and quickly found a love for live sound and wanted to be the classic, mid-level club, live sound, front of house, and tour manager combo. So I went to school at Bay State College in Boston, and then basically was like, yeah, touring's cool. And I did 3 years on the Vans Warped Tour as well as some other smaller tours here and there, and it was a blast. I loved it. Then I met a girl and was like, oh, time to settle down.
Right.
And that was 5 years ago, and that whole situation has changed now. But I had a great time in San Diego, and that's where I wasn't doing much music at all. And that's how I discovered SubmitHub, because a friend of mine had kind of passed the reins for a blog called Rock Metal Punk to me. And I was like, dude, I hate emails. And somebody said, oh, go check out SubmitHub, where basically like I could get paid 50 cents to listen to a song, and whether I approve it or not, and then I could share the music that I really wanted to share. And it was so easy because all the stuff was in line. And this was about fall of 2016, so almost 5 years ago. I think it was like October, November.
When did SubmitHub come out?
The end of 2015.
Okay, yeah, so it is still fairly new. It was still super new at that time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I joined, I want to say like 3 days after their first birthday. And maybe that's why I heard about it. Maybe they did like a big birthday, announcement.
Promo thing, yeah.
I don't even remember at this point. But so that was kind of how I stayed in touch with music while I was living in the paradise that is San Diego. And then I got back into music because of it. I started interning at, what was the name of it? At Signature Sound Studios in San Diego, which, for those of you not familiar with the area, Blink recorded parts of Enema of the State there. The Used recorded there. Who else? While I was interning there, we had not Killswitch Engage, but the guys from Killswitch Engage came through with like their side project. Revolution came through for any of you reggae fans. And that's not to say like those were the two big names that came through while I was there. But 20 years ago, it was like big names every single day because like SoCal and pop punk go hand in hand, and there were a ton. Oh, POD was another one. Another huge one. Again, not while I was there, but just like the history of that studio. So going to work in there and like seeing all these pictures up on the wall, records from bands like Newfound Glory and oh man, I can't even remember them all.
Were a lot of those original engineers that worked with those artists still there? Were you still learning from them?
There were two of them that were there during that time, if I recall. One of them was named Mike. I don't remember his last name off the top of my head. Really cool guy, and he's like in the pictures with some of the bands. I'm like, oh, I know that guy. And then the other one, Christian Cummings, is he's been around for quite a while as well. I don't think he was in the pictures, but I know he's worked on some big projects as well. So that was kind of my like re-enlightenment to music, and since then I've been back in music. And one thing that's been happening to me for over a decade, ever since I started in music, is friends have always been hitting me up for advice over and over again. And I realized it was happening so much that like I can't answer everyone. So that's when I started what is now known as Bandhive. Not always known as Bandhive, but now is Bandhive, which is basically a community-centered resource for musicians and artists, mainly bands, to learn about the music industry. Because of my experience, I love to talk about touring primarily, but my co-host, Matt, we have a podcast. He is more on the branding side of things. So we, switch off topics between the two of us. And he's, I met him on Warped Tour. So he's also super into the touring side of things, just more on the brand management, whereas his bandmate was the tour manager for his band. And so, yeah, I've been doing Bandhive for the last few years, as well as mixing and mastering with my music studio. But as much as I love mixing and mastering, Bandhive is where my passion lies, because I love helping people. And, this is a way for me to help lots of people rather than typing up like a 10-paragraph essay to one person and then being like, okay, cool, thanks. I might read this sometime. Now I can type up a 10-person or a 10-paragraph email and send it to, hundreds of people. And they can read it or they cannot, but they have it. And that makes me feel good.
I started noticing that same thing too, because I would get especially doing like cold outreach, trying to find new leads and whatnot, talking to people, or even just new clients where they start asking questions. And it was like that before. I was like, okay, all right, now I have to spend, which is like, occasionally it's fine, but now I have to spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes typing out this email. And by the end of it, it's like, I have to reread it constantly. It's a lot. It's a lot to have to sit down and write all that out. But now that I have a catalog of 50, 60 plus episodes now, it's so much easier to just be like, oh, I've got you. Here's a link to these 3 episodes. Listen to these. It has all of the information you're looking for. So much easier, so much better too, to like the way you can translate, through audio, actual talking instead of just text, which can be, you can have some miscommunication issues there. Maybe you don't tackle a subject entirely the way you need to. And also like time restraints too. If it's like, oh shit, I have to get to work on this. I don't have time to finish up typing this long email. Let me quickly sum it up. With a nice hour-long podcast, now you can really dive into an episode, or a topic, I should say, the way you need to, instead of having to write a blog post in an email or just write a blog post, period.
Yeah, and the other thing I love about podcasting is it's a lot easier to get guests to come on and talk about a topic that they know about than it is to be like, hey, will you write a guest post for me? Because, like, in my opinion, guest posts aren't worth much. Like, I would not write a guest post for someone else unless it was a super high-profile blog. And I wouldn't ask anyone to write a guest post for me. Like, I don't see the point. I'd much rather have a conversation with them and dig into what's actually going on, So that's why I've had people like branding experts come on the show. We had a really cool label owner come on the show. It was episode 42 or 44. Aaron Zimmer from Least of All Sound Recordings, sorry. And they do one-off vinyl production. So during the pandemic, how they adapted was they'd say, okay, XYZ artist, let's put up some pre-sales. People can choose from, like 3 or 4 songs that you put on a list. And however many records we sell, that's how many takes you're going to do. And so every single take is pressed to vinyl for a specific person. Or not pressed, they do, I forget what the technique is, where it's like actually cut in rather than a pressing. And so every single record that Least of All puts out is one of a kind, unique. No one else has that version of that song. and it's super affordable. It's like 20 or $25 for a record. So yeah, it's a super cool project, and I'm so glad to get to talk to people like that. And then, I mean, I've gotten to talk to artists that when I was a teenager, I grew up listening to. Like, we had Ballyhoo and I Fight Dragons on the podcast. I mean, I've seen them around. They both did Warped Tour on the years I was out there, or at least one of the years I was out there. Went to an amusement park kind of by accident and ran into I Fight Dragons. It's like, hey, let's go down the roller coaster. So that was fun. So I know them. I'm not friends with them, but like it was cool to now 5 years later get both of those bands back on the show and pick their brains about music business, which in the past was like, oh hey, what's up, man? Like I like your music. Now it's like, tell me how you did this. Um,
Not,
so, you know,
not from a weird perspective too, like an awkward dude
Right,
behind stage, like digging into their personal time.
Yeah. And to be fair, when we ran into them at the amusement park, their merch girl was like, you should join us. I'm like, okay, like I'll do
Hell
this. I didn't
yes.
just go up to them and be like, let's go on the roller coaster.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
it was a good time.
Podcasting is incredible. It's with my industry, it feels like it's still catching up with electronic music. And I did an entire episode on this about how artists should be like seeking out podcasts that they can try to get on to, that they can start promoting releases or whatever. If they're an expert in a topic that they can go on and it's related to their target market or whatever, utilize that. And I feel like there's still such a huge gap because I'm one of few, I think, podcasts in my industry that are specifically talking about like music business stuff. There's a couple of, I think, EDM podcast, Mr. Bill's podcast, and then I think Will Sparks. These are all artists that probably just go right over your head. That's fine. But I think those are like the only big podcasts in my scene that are like doing relatively similar things to me. A lot of those ones, though, they're interviewing artists, which I feel like that's so overdone. Interviewing artists in terms of like just to interview. Oh, how'd you write this song? Oh, what are you doing? Like that's very overdone. And so I didn't want to get into that aspect. So, but being able to be introduced to some people that like, I mean, Wyatt Christensen, who I've had on the podcast twice, he runs Daw Nation. I think I sent his information over to you to get on another podcast. I remember listening to his stuff, looking at his videos when I was producing. Like, I wasn't even in the music. I wasn't doing business at all. I was another producer and DJ. And then to finally like meet him face to face, I guess over Zoom, but become friends. Like I have his number. We text all the time now. Like that, it's mind blowing seeing people that like, oh, I'll never meet this person, and then 4 years later, like life changes, and all of a sudden now I'm having an actual conversation with them about business stuff. It's mind blowing. Another guy who has like a huge YouTube channel, Zen World, which he does a bunch of tutorial stuff on like sound design. And I remember watching his stuff when in like 2015, 2016, like as a producer, watching his stuff. And I have friends that are like, this guy's awesome. And then again, meeting him face to face, getting his number and all that stuff. It's really cool to be introduced to people you never thought you would actually be on a first name basis with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange beast, but I like it. And to be honest, I did videos for like half a year. I think I did like 32 or 33 weekly videos on YouTube. And dude, I hated it. I hate talking to a camera by myself. And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm doing a podcast. Like it was not a pleasant time for me. And, you know, I'm lucky that I don't struggle with mental health issues or anything like that. You know, so many musicians do. So I consider myself extremely lucky. But I could still tell, like, this is not going to be sustainable for the long term. And if I keep this up, like, I am going to crack at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the exact same with like video stuff. It's too awkward for me. And then the editing, too much.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's jump into SubmitHub and talk a little bit about that. Because the reason why I wanted to bring you on is because you did an email course series, which will give everyone the information on that, on how they can get involved with that email course. Because it is fantastic. The information in that is so valuable. I've got all of those emails starred and they're in a folder specifically for me to review because I won't remember everything, but I'll have the notation down. And we're going to be kind of going over that entire course essentially here, at least bits and pieces of it, and then asking some additional questions. But
I'm going to need to ask you for a testimonial.
yeah, you'll have to get one from me because it was so great. As soon as I remember getting the first email, and I didn't even mention having you on the podcast until I saw that email about SubmitHub, and you were you're gonna be getting these emails, blah blah blah, and I was like, okay, sick. I really like this. And then you forwarded like all of the emails over to me so I could get the entire thing because I didn't want to wait. And it was
right. Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
It's fantastic, man. I mean, the whole thing is set up so perfectly. And I remember, here's the thing. I just had my friend right before you sent these emails out, before I asked to bring you on the podcast. I had a buddy that was like, I hate submit because one of my friends submits to Label Radar, I think. And then I have another buddy he submits to Label Radar, doesn't like SubmitHub. He's like, SubmitHub has never done anything good for me. It doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. But then my other buddy submits through SubmitHub and he's gotten some like really good deals through that. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's in between, like it's okay, it's not the best, and but other people get really good stuff out of it. Maybe it's in between. And then I got your emails. I was like, oh, there's actually a strategy behind the way you approach SubmitHub and how you actually reach out to people and get feedback and utilize, I guess, the different subscription models or whatever. So after reading about that, I was like, okay, clearly SubmitHub does work if you know what you're doing. And so seeing that you actually are there any other courses like what you have out there teaching people all the logistics of everything?
I think it's the most in-depth one. I've seen people put out like, 15, 20-minute YouTube video here and there or a blog post or something like that. But it's just basically kind of showing people like how to go through the process.
Right.
Whereas mine is more, and they do mention like, hey, pay attention to these things, the things that I highlight, but I go more into the why. Because I think a lot of people watch that and they see, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, and they ignore the part that's like, this is important, don't mess this up. They're just like, that came between steps 2 and 3, let me go to the next thing. Whereas mine is more analytical and more like thinking about it. I have to give credit to my friend Steve, who is an artist that I met through SubmitHub probably 3 or 4 years ago now, because he submitted to my blog, and he's given me a lot of the advice that I started using for my SubmitHub campaigns. And he still beats me by a little bit. So the best campaign I ever did, I tend to do campaigns in batches of 10 submissions. So starting with like the best 10 candidates for this song, ideally candidates that have approved a similar song that I've submitted in the past. And I don't submit my own songs because I don't do my own songs. I submit songs for clients. And so I'll see how that first 10 goes. And my record for that first 10 was in the mid to high 80s. Because I think it was like, out of the first 10, 8 or 9 responded, and I ended up like 83, 84%, something like that. And then at the end of the campaign, I ended up, I wrote down the numbers. I ended up doing 33 submissions total for that song. This is for a band called Real Talk with their song Spent. Really cool band from New England. Their drummer lives up the road from me here in Vermont, and the rest of the band is in Maine, and I think one of the guys just moved to like New York or something. Anyway, 33 submissions, 31 responded, and 16 of those were approvals. So I ended up with just over 50%. Like if it had been 32 and 16 approvals, it would have been 50% on the money. And the site-wide average hovers around 21, 22%.
So you got down. You have a system for this.
I absolutely have a system. And I'll get into that later. But Steve, my man Steve, he has finished campaigns in the 60s. So like starting, the first 10 submissions up high, like 70, 80%. But he's at the end of a campaign when he's done like, 20, 30, 40 submissions, ended in the 60s. And to be fair, he does a different genre. He does neoclassical mainly. But still, he knows the game, and he's a computer programmer. He does like e-commerce websites for large companies. So he's got like sheets and sheets and sheets of data, which is something that I probably should do, but I'm more of just like a gut feeling guy. Like I listen to the song, I'm like, they like this, they're not gonna like what I'm submitted. But this other place likes this, they're gonna love this, so I'm gonna submit to them. So I can't say I have as many like crazy spreadsheets as Steve, but I still, I can compete. I'm close.
Yeah. That's bananas. Okay. Because clearly you know what the fuck you're talking about. That's been proven. You can easily give us those numbers, and you clearly know what you're doing. And I guarantee the people that I know who submit through SubmitHub are not getting those kinds of numbers. So go ahead.
Let me jump in real quick there. It's quite possible that they are getting a similar number for approvals. If their song is good and, if it has good production and it's a good song, because that's, a given, you need to have that. They might get just as many approvals, but if they submit to 200 people and they just like spray and pray, it might be a little faster, but then, like, what is that? That's like 8% approval if you get 16 approvals out of 200 submissions.
Yeah. Well,
so
and also,
obviously that looks bad.
You also might not be submitting to the best places. Like if you're doing that spray and pray, you might get the first, maybe the first, because I see this happening. I could definitely see this happening easily, especially with like smaller producers, smaller artists who are, maybe they have one, maybe two releases with a record label under their belt, maybe. And that's just singles. We're not talking EPs or albums, just singles, and probably in the past year or two. When they get a label that's interested in their music, they get very excited. They get, and it's like they're rushing to sign that contract because they like knowing that a label out there wants their music. It's that approval. They feel like they're getting the recognition that they want, they hope and deserve. But the issue there is there are a million, and I don't know if this is the same with your industry, but with electronic music, there are 1,000,001 record labels out there. There's a crazy amount of record. I mean, tiny artists, no-name artists will make record labels just so that they have a platform to release all of their own music on, and sign almost no one. Like, that's a very common thing. There's labels who get any song possible and they release whatever. Doesn't matter the quality of music. It's so common. So there's a lot of bad quality record labels out there. And I just did I talked a little bit about, I can't remember what episode it was. Too many episodes now. But essentially I was talking about, essentially I was saying like, okay, so if you're an artist and you're giving up 70% of royalties for your track, in theory, the idea of a record label, what they're there to do is they're investing their own time and their money to promote this track, to get you in front of an audience and get you streams, get you purchases, get you, people interested in you and get fans. That's essentially what you're doing when you're giving up 70%. You're giving up if out of $1, you're giving up 70 cents. Now, a lot of record labels in our industry don't do that. A lot do not promote your track. A lot do not have like good playlisting. They don't have good, they don't have promo plans set up. They don't have jack shit. They don't have an audience. So I broke it down for artists and I was like, listen, if you're giving up 70% and a label's not even promoting they're making a post the day before your release and then a post the day of your release, and that's it. What the fuck are you giving up 70% for? And so
unless they give you a giant advance, which they probably didn't.
They don't. They do not. They will not do that.
Yeah.
They don't do that. So it's like, what are you giving 70% up for if they're not going to do these basic necessities that they need to do to have a successful release or even a moderately successful release? And so that's the issue with, I'm sure, a lot of artists, a lot of producers who are submitting to SubmitHub, and sure, they submit to 200 people and they do the spray and pray. There are, out of those 200 labels, there may be 2 or 3, I'm sure, that are good labels that would do you well. And they may not be the ones responding to you. And maybe it's more than likely, probably, I would assume, and this is just for labels. We'll get into the other topics within SubmitHub, but for a label, I'm sure it's a lot of shitty labels that are like, yeah, we'll take it, just because it's like another thing for them to post on social
Yep.
media or release. It's just another thing to put in the catalog. They don't really care about your release or you as an artist, and they're going to take 60, 70%. And a lot of those producers might jump to that and run to it because they're excited, because they're like, ooh, someone wants this track. But in reality, they probably don't give a shit about you. So it's important to figure out, like, who do I actually want to submit to? Doing research on labels, like what's a good label that would actually take care of me? And okay, can I look at their previous releases? How are they promoting stuff? This is all stuff I talked about in that episode, but I guarantee there are so many artists that are doing that spray and pay tactic that is just, it's not, numbers might look good. Maybe the numbers look good. They could look better, but I guarantee it's probably not the people you actually want to be submitting to. So
personally, I do not submit to labels on SubmitHub. Most people I know don't use the label function. I don't recommend it, because if you're a DIY artist and seeking out a label, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. I actually have a couple podcast episodes on there. If you give me a second, I can look them up.
We'll jump into the idea of what SubmitHub is for, in terms of, I guess we'll dive into your idea of what you think SubmitHub is best utilized for, because I am really curious. I know you mentioned it within your course, but people here probably haven't read it yet. I'm sure they will. So they'll definitely want to know. But what would you say SubmitHub is utilized for most? Is it utilized most for labels, but you would rather go a different route? Is it mostly looking for influencers?
It's mostly curators, and then influencers is always growing, and then labels would be like the least common
Third
use.
Okay,
from
I'm
what I've
actually
seen on the platform.
I'm interested to get into the idea of influencers and how people are using that, because I would assume TikTok has got to be huge for SubmitHub and influencers.
It is, yeah. I definitely have some thoughts on that, and I have some beans to spill on labels as well. And it's not a criticism of SubmitHub at all. It's not their issue. But so the two episodes are number 35 and 36 of the Bandhive podcast. You can find them at bandhive.rocks/35 and bandhive.rocks/36, or just search for Bandhive in your favorite podcast app, whether it's Spotify, Apple, whatever, and you can find those episodes. They are like 70 episodes back at the time of recording, so it might take some scrolling, but they're there. It's how to get signed part 1 and part 2. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil the episode, but we talk about why you don't want to get signed. So SubmitHub does have strong regulations in place for labels. Like, if somebody just releases their own music, that's not going to fly. You have to have more than one artist on the platform. You can't be the only artist. Like, you have to be an actual label to get approved to take submissions on SubmitHub. And they have similar guidelines for curators and influencers as well. They're not going to let on Bob and his burger shack that has 10 followers. Like, that's not useful to anyone. But there is one label that submits to me, to my blog on SubmitHub all the time. They're a metal label, and every submission they send just has really poor production. And the kicker is that this label will only sign acts on the condition that that act uses the label's in-house production team. And I just think that is the worst deal ever. Like, bands I can't imagine they listen to that label's releases, because if they'd listen to it, they'd be like, yo, this is terrible. Like, why would we ever sign to this label? And then the label, now, SubmitHub is a great tool, but the label, from what I can see, does not do any promotion aside from submitting to people on SubmitHub. It's like the band could do that themselves, and they could get better production elsewhere quite easily. And SubmitHub's a great tool, but it's one tool in your tool belt. It should not be the only thing you do. And this is what I say to my clients too, is like, hey, I can submit you on SubmitHub, and I can get you good results, because I don't take clients if their song and their production aren't good. So I know I can get them good results, because I know, like, hey, these are the curators that are going to enjoy this song. But I tell them, hey, like, you still have to do other promotion too. You cannot just rely on this. Like, I can get you on 10, 20 playlists, and, that's still a drop in the bucket. If you want to get to, 5,000, 10,000 plays on Spotify, 10, 20 playlists, unless I hit a big one, you're gonna get maybe 500 to 1,000 plays if you're lucky, you know? Unless I hit like a giant playlist, which typically I don't target them because they're much less likely to approve. I go for the ones that have a good mix of like the stuff they share sounds good. They don't only share major label stuff. And like it's a fit, you know? I people are gonna hear my frustration here, but so Rock Metal Punk is a blog that focuses on modern rock, metal, and punk with a very high emphasis on production quality because it's modern rock. Like, you can't have modern rock that sounds like it was recorded in the 70s on a 2-track. Like, that doesn't work. And so then artists, and I mean no offense, but rappers are the biggest offenders. On SubmitHub, they will submit to every single genre and they'll label it like screamo. I'm like, dude, this is not screamo. Like, this is rap. And so like rappers just blatantly lie about their genre. But then there's other artists where like I'll see something that's labeled as hard rock and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like ZZ Top. Like, maybe it was hard rock 40 years ago, but hard rock now is like, you know, Sick Puppies or Shinedown or Gestrophy. It's like the genre has evolved, and that's why classic rock is a thing. And SubmitHub has a classic rock genre, so why aren't you using that tag? And it's gone to the point that I begged Jason, the founder of SubmitHub, to add the ability to exclude or to block genres. And he did that. So I have blocked classic rock. If somebody tags classic rock on a song, even because you can choose multiple genres. So if they hit like classic rock, hard rock, because classic rock is in there, they cannot submit to me. So they have to take classic rock off to submit to me. So it's like, I know it's a conscious thing that they are doing when I hear a song that's absolutely classic rock. It's just mind-boggling. And then they get upset they get declined. Like, and obviously if it's a really bad fit, I will just refund them and be like, yo, it's not a good fit, because there is a way to say that it's the wrong genre and refund them. But if it's close, I'll just be like, hey, you know, this is not the right fit. Like, I really like this. If I do, you know, I'm not going to tell them I like it if I don't. But I'll say like, hey, I really like this, but it's just not a fit for our brand. And that's probably the most common response I give, with the second most common being like, yeah, I love this song. Like, it's pop punk, or, you know, it's screamo, or it sounds like Senses Fail, or whatever. Like, insert mid 2000s to current scene band. I love it.
All time
but
low.
Your production, yeah. I'm not I respect All Time Low, but they're not my jam.
Dude, 2011, their Dirty Works album, so good. I love their Dirty Works album. How dare you? Blasphemy, James. Blasphemy. I love their Dirty Work album. Their earlier stuff, all right.
I am the classic pop punk poser who I somehow didn't get into music till 2008, but I grew up on Sum 41 and Simple Plan and Green Day. Because my favorite movie when I was a little kid was Cheaper by the Dozen, and it didn't have Green Day, but it had Sum 41 and it had Simple Plan.
Yep.
And so once I got into music and I was like, oh, who's this band? Sum 41? I was like, oh, this is the song. Simple Plan? What?
That was me and Good Charlotte.
Yeah.
I grew up on Good Charlotte, dude. I love me some Good Charlotte. And then same time, 2008, 2009 is when I like super got Warped Tour all the way. We've already discussed all this shit.
Yeah. So that was the anthem of your youth.
Yes. Okay, so SubmitHub. You've got 3 main tiers that you can actually submit to, correct? So you've got influencers, curators, and labels. What does that look like when you're actually submitting? I guess would the standard and premium subscription models be incorporated in this? Like, does it differ on who you can actually submit to based off of standard and premium, or can you submit to any curator on standard or premium?
Yes and no. So you can submit to any curator as long as they allow it. It's a setting that curators can enable.
Okay, so they can enable standard or premium member. Okay. So,
and the same thing goes for labels, but influencers cannot take standard credits. They used to be able to, but there have been some revamps of the system trying to figure it out, because influencers are just of a different mindset. They want it's pay to play. And so SubmitHub has a very anti-payola stance when it comes to curators and labels, especially curators, because like you can get kicked off of Spotify if you're caught paying to be put on a playlist. So that's why with SubmitHub, you're always paying for consideration. You pay whether you get approved or not, and you still get something if you get declined. You get that feedback. Same thing for labels, but with influencers, because they just wanted pay to play, and the standard credits did not work out, so they revamped it. And influencers are actually the most expensive on the platform, but it's a guaranteed share or your money back. So SubmitHub has, adjusted their stance, and it's still very strong, no payola for curators and labels. But for the influencers, it's straight up payola. And even Jason admits that. He was on the Bandhive podcast a while back, and he's like, yeah, we're going just straight payola for influencers because that's what we have to do.
So what is can you break down the entire idea of what SubmitHub is? What is SubmitHub used for, and why is it something that artists in general should be utilizing?
So if an artist has been doing their due diligence and trying to promote themselves through email by reaching out to blogs, Spotify playlisters, all that, you already know the struggle. You know that you send out 100 emails and you get a reply to like 5 of them if you're lucky. Most people don't even open it. If you have like a little open tracker, you'll see like 10 of them opened it, 5 replied, and 1 said, yeah, I like it, I'll put it on a playlist. With SubmitHub, that takes all that pain out of it for both the submitter and the curator. Like, I do not take email submissions anymore for the blog I run. If it's like a band that I really like and it comes through, I'll do it. But most of the time, I just have like a template reply that says, hey, please send it through SubmitHub. So like it's literally the exceptions are bands that I know and I like the bands I grew up listening to. Everyone else is just like, I don't have time for this. Like, I don't know 100% that it's going to be an approval. So unless I know just by seeing the name, I want to share this, I don't. And even there have been, I love the Used, don't get me wrong. But when they dropped the Canyon, I got an email submission, and they were like, "Oh, hey, do you want to hear the full album?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll listen to it." And they're like, "Okay, cool, just let us know when the review's up." And a few weeks later, they replied and were like, "Hey, where's the review?" I'm like, "Yeah, to be honest, like, no disrespect, I love the Used, but this is not my thing. Like, I'm not vibing with it, and I didn't want to write a bad review." And they were super understanding. Like, it was their press person. She's like, "Thank you so much for not writing a bad review. Like, we really appreciate that." And I was like, "Yeah, no worries. Like, if they put out something like in a couple of years, let me know." And their new record is much more up my alley. So, point being, SubmitHub takes all the hassle out of email. It takes all the hassle out of submissions. Yeah, because you don't have to email people.
Right. Emails don't get fucking buried or put in junk or get lost, and you're like, why is no one responding?
Exactly. And so let me first get into the difference between standard and premium. And so keep in mind that the submission process for curators and labels is almost identical. You can submit standard credits to curators and labels, like I said, as long as they have them enabled. And you basically get up to 2 standard credits at any one time. It costs 1 or 2 credits, depending on the blog or label settings, to submit to each blog. So theoretically, you can submit to a maximum of 2 curators or labels at once if you're using standard credits. Sometimes it's going to be 1 at a time. And as soon as you use those 2 credits, after 4 hours, they regenerate. So you'll always have a maximum of 2, but you could technically do, 6 submissions a day if you do it every 4 hours and you don't sleep. Like, you go to bed at 10 and set an alarm for 2 a.m. submit, right. Go to bed again, set an alarm for 6, submit. Like,
knowing some of these animals in the music industry, they will do that.
Yeah. So that's how the standard credits work. The thing here is there is no guarantee of any sort with standard credits. People can just decline them. You have to listen to a minimum of 5 seconds with those, and then you can decline it with 1 button click. Or maybe it's 2. I think you might have to say, no, it's 1. It's 1. So it's super easy to decline a standard. All you have to do is listen for 5 seconds, or you can literally just let them build up forever, and you're not penalized as a curator or a label. So it's possible. It's better than email, because you're still more likely to get a response, but you are not going to get written feedback unless the curator has something to say. And typically, like in my situation, it's if I really like the song, but the production could use some work, I'll be like, hey, these are some specific things. Please feel free to message me. Like, I'm a mix engineer. I'm happy to take a listen to you. And I make sure like this is free.
Right.
Because I'm not allowed to offer services as a mix engineer in my feedback. So it's like, hey, like, I'm happy to like just take a listen and give you some feedback for free. Like if you want more details, let me know. But if they don't want more details, I'm not going to write an essay. Like so that way they know it's there if
Send
they
them a
want it. But
podcast episode.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll have to do that. And then for premium submissions, which are super cheap, a credit SubmitHub, basically you start off at 6 credits for $5. So that's what, like 95 cents a credit? Not even, like 80 cents a credit. And then the more you buy, the cheaper it is because, you know, you buy in bulk, the processing fees go down. SubmitHub has a little more cash up front, all that kind of stuff. And then you are guaranteed a response for curators within 48 hours and labels within 96 hours, or you get those credits back so you can spend them somewhere else. And with that response,
Well,
go
so with standard, it's free. Is standard free on SubmitHub?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's free. You get 2 credits every 6 hours.
Every 4 hours.
Okay, and then with the premium credits don't regenerate. You have to purchase premium credits every single time.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as, you know, like if somebody doesn't respond, then you get them back. But the advantage is you have that guaranteed response time, and you are also guaranteed either you get the approval or you get at least 10 words of feedback with 20 seconds minimum listen. You know, 20 seconds is super short, but most curators listen for a lot longer than that. And on every single curator or label's page, it will show you their average listen time. It doesn't show it down to the second, but it'll be like they typically listen for more than 90 seconds, or they listen for, you know, under 30 seconds. They listen between 30 and 60 seconds. And, you know, it's just an average. Like, there are songs that I know. I'm one of the blogs that's listed as over 90 seconds, which is like the most you can have shown on your profile. There's some songs that I decline in the first 20 to 30 seconds just because I know it's not a fit. Like, I can tell by now that the production, like, you know, intro kicks in and the guitars are phased out left and right. I'm like, okay, no one who listens on an Amazon Echo Dot is going to hear guitars. So, like, I can't share this because my audience is going to be like, why aren't there guitars in this song? And typically, like, it'll still take me longer than that 20 seconds to write the feedback. And I try to be detailed because, you know, I am a mix engineer. So if it's something mix related, I'll give them as much detail as possible, you know. And to be fair, this is not just DIY artists who have phasing guitars. I'm super butthurt about it, but AFI's latest release, phasing guitars because their guitarist self-produced and he was too lazy to record a damn guitar double. And I'm just like, dude, why so lazy? Like, you've had records done by Butch Vig and Jerry Finn and Joe McGrath. Like, you know how to record a guitar double. And you're just like, nah, I'm just going to flip the polarity on this and, you know, make it super wide and stereo. I'm like, dude, no, that sounds like, I hate it.
Were we talking about that a couple of months ago?
We probably were.
I think we were talking about AFI and how I think we were talking about the main versus AFI and like the difference in the way they've maintained themselves over the years. And AFI is like clearly chasing like their relevancy.
They're trying to cheap out.
Yeah, they're trying to cash out on their relevancy from like 13 years ago. Don't give a shit, just trying to like scrape the bottom of the barrel of everyone's wallets. Just like get what they can out of their fans. I wouldn't be surprised if they're struggling.
It's sad. Like, I love AFI. They used to be my favorite band, and they're still one of my, you know, top 3, maybe top 5. And I'm not a giant fan of the main. I really like the main. But they're not in like my top 5 or even top 10. But what I love about the main is that they care about their fans, and it is so obvious. And they're not jaded. Like, I'm sure there are times when they feel jaded, but they're still genuine about when they say they care for their fans, they absolutely do.
Their growth is a very great like thing to look at because their growth has not stopped. It's fucking wild. Like at this point you would think like, okay, they're stagnant. Like, but you go to their Spotify playlist or their Spotify profile, every single new release they come out with is their top most streamed tracks.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like it's not their stuff from like their Can't Stop Won't Stop album, which was our I think EP album, which was arguably like their biggest, or their Black and White album. Like those albums were from like 2008, 2010, the pinnacle of like pop punk, alternative rock music, the pinnacle of Warped Tour. Like that was from 2005 through 2011, maybe 2012, Warped Tour was the thing. And the Main was headlining like every single one of those from 2007 up to 2012, 2013. And they were huge. And you would think you go on to their a really good indicator, like a band to look to, like 303. 303 is from that era. 303, I love 303. Their most recent album is much better than their previous ones. It's going more back to their classic roots of their Want album. They were huge at that time. If you go on to 303 Spotify, what's that?
I call it cringe pop.
Cringe pop.
I mean, that's literally what it is.
It's like electro pop rap. What it is, their genre is so wild. They really have created something original and different.
And
I will
their
give them that.
shows are incredible. The first show I ever worked was a 303 show, and it was bonkers.
Their shows are bananas. Yeah.
They had like animatronic wolves with laser eyes.
With the lasers.
And they didn't get to use their hazers though because they weren't allowed to in Boston. So they had the lasers but no fog, and it's like, it works.
Lame.
But it looked really cool anyway.
Those wolves are so badass. But if you go to 303 Spotify profile, their top stream track, I guarantee, is all from their Want album. It's gonna be Don't Trust Me. It's gonna be Starstruck with Katy Perry. Like it's these songs that are great. Like I still enjoy them to this day, but it's not their most recent work. You go to the Main's profile, they're telling a completely different story. They're telling a story of growth, of consistent growth that they've been able to maintain, and their fans keep coming back to their new music, and it's better than ever every single time. So, those are two completely different stories of art, and same with like AFI. Like I guarantee their Spotify profile is probably gonna be all their stuff from like
Miss Murder, Girls Not Grey, Leading Song Part 2. And I just want to point something out here that's totally off topic. But the Main, they're go-givers. AFI, not go-givers.
No.
And
I agree.
Like I should say the rhythm section of AFI are like absolutely amazing, genuine dudes. Their drummer literally gave me the sticks from their song Dark Snow. When he goes into the studio, he uses one set of sticks for every single song that they record. And back in the day, I was actually working for AFI, running the news section of their site, along with some friends of mine. And we all got to meet the whole band. And Adam all of a sudden grabs this box and he's like, okay, everybody, like, and he told us the story about what he does. And I was like, okay, so, pick a song. And I got to pick Dark Snow, which is the intro off of their 2017 album. Super nice dude. So is the bass player Hunter. Great guys. I'm not saying Davey and Jade. I'm not saying anything against them. I just don't know them as well as I know Adam and Hunter, because I know Adam and Hunter were always the ones being like, hey, you guys rock. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, they were just happy that somebody appreciated the band so much to do stuff for them, to do that kind of work for them. Whereas Davey and Jade are like, no pun intended, they're jaded by all the screaming fans. And from what I've seen on the outside, AFI has become the Davey and Jade show. Hunter, the bass player, is a legitimate producer. That's what he does when he's not working on AFI stuff. He produces other artists. Jade does not do that. Jade produces AFI and AFI side projects, and you can tell. Like, they're focused on us rather than the fans. And, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, per se, but it means the fans are going to notice and you're not going to have the fan base that you once had. And that's what's happening with AFI. So that bums me out, but anyone who hasn't read it yet, go check out the book, The Go-Giver by Bob Berg and John David Mann, one of my favorite books. I'm sure you've read it, Christian.
It is my listeners are probably so fucking annoyed with how much I refer that book. It's gotta be there needs to be a Go-Giver counter for how often I mention that book, because it is so often. Still one of the best books I've ever read today. My girlfriend loves the book too. She doesn't even she doesn't listen to any business book or read any business books or anything, and she still it was one of her favorite books ever.
Yeah,
so good.
So this is the new Go-Giver counter. Every time you mention it,
I'm gonna have to put a slide whistle in every single time now.
You can sample that. I give you permission. You may sample that.
I need to get a slide whistle now. Damn. Oh my god. I'm so gonna get a slide whistle. They've got to be pretty
My aunt
cheap.
sent it to me yesterday.
Dude.
So I now have a slide whistle as of last night, and it was just sitting over there. I was like, I know what needs to be done.
My girlfriend, Marty, might kill me if I get a slide whistle because I will sit here bored, just like all day, just with a slide whistle. Oh god. Okay, so going back,
I sidetracked too much. My apologies.
No, I do. Trust me, I'm the king of sidetrack. No problem there.
Yeah. There's something I want to wrap this back to the standard versus premium.
Yeah.
When using premium, SubmitHub will show you the option of 20 seconds minimum listen plus 10 words of feedback with feedback important. That same thing with feedback not important. And then a 90-second minimum listen. I know the 90-second minimum listen is tempting, but do not do it. Statistically speaking, the decline rate is much higher, or the approval rate is much lower on that 90-second option because curators don't have to write feedback. They can't get rated on feedback because when they write feedback, you can rate it. So it can be really tempting to be like, hey, at least they have to listen to 90 seconds. Does not matter. Do not do it. Even SubmitHub says this. They have like a link right there. It's like, we don't recommend this. Why not? And then it links to a giant blog post that Jason wrote. And basically it's like, here are the statistics. This only exists because enough people complained about it, so we added it. But we still don't recommend it. Speaking from personal experience, like, I decline far fewer I approve far fewer 90-second submissions than I do for feedback submissions. Because it's that barrier. If I'm on the fence about approving a song and I'm writing feedback, I'm going through, I'm thinking like, yeah, like why am I not approving this? It makes me think about it. And sometimes as I'm writing my feedback, I'm like, you know what? Let me at least do a shout out for this. I'll put it on our Instagram. It won't be on our blog. I'm not going to write up a whole blog post, but I'll put it on our Instagram. With a 90-second, it's just like, yeah, I don't love it. See ya.
Right. Yeah.
So
that makes a lot more sense, especially if you're getting rated for the feedback.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, so that's the other difference. If you choose feedback important, you can get rated on it. If you choose feedback not important, or not, you can get rated on it, but you can rate it. If you choose feedback not important, you can still rate it, but that rating doesn't actually do anything. And it says that, like, it's known. It's because if you're saying, I don't care about the feedback, it's not fair to then like ding them with a 1-star rating. That would just be like a dick move.
So you want to go with feedback important, minimum 20 seconds?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the default option. Basically, do not change that option. Just leave it as is on the default because you will have better chances of being approved. I've also noticed that typically the 90-second songs seem to be the ones that aren't quite as good. So maybe the artist already knows that it's not great and they just don't want the pain.
They're just
in which case,
it out to the ether.
Yeah, but in that case, just don't submit it. Make it good and then submit it.
Make it good or put it away and write something else and make that good. Yeah. Can you choose what part of the song the track starts? Or does it start right at the intro and the curator can flip through the track measly wherever they want?
Yeah, it does start right at the beginning. And this is actually a common thing we see where, the curator listens for a minute and says like, hey, like, I like this, but the chorus didn't really do it for me. And somebody's like, but the chorus doesn't start till 1:30. It's like, well, they can skip through it. So keep in mind, it might say they listen for a minute. That doesn't mean they listen to the first minute. It does start there. But that brings me to another point, which is don't release something with a stupid long intro as a single. This is just human psychology. If people aren't hooked in the first...
Radio edits, people.
Yeah. If people aren't hooked in the first 5 to 10 seconds, they are not going to enjoy it. So if you put a song out, and even if it gets approved, it gets put on a Spotify playlist, and it has like a 30-second intro with just like guitar noodling and this kind of stuff before it actually starts, like, you're not going to catch people's attention on that playlist. Like, yeah, you got on the playlist, but it's not going to do anything for you. And especially when it comes to standards, you have to capture people within that first 5 seconds, because otherwise they're literally going to hit instant decline. When I think back to the songs that I've approved on standards, it's the songs that get to the fucking point. Can't remember the band's name. It's a metal band from like Missouri or somewhere around there, and just starts with like a big drum fill, like and then guitars. I'm like, yes. And I love to use AFI as an example, which I literally use in my feedback when somebody sends me a song with like a 90-second intro. Or sometimes artists will send in a music video that has like 90 seconds of plot before it even gets to the video. I'm just like,
No music,
No,
just sounds and
right.
people walking around.
So my favorite example to give in feedback is like, hey, this intro is way too long for a single. I like the song, but I cannot approve this. You know, I think songs like this are great. I love songs like this. You know, AFI's song, The Great Disappointment, for example. Amazing song. Not a single. Not even close. If you think about the singles from Sing the Sorrow, which The Great Disappointment was on, you had Girls Not Grey, which starts boom, guitar. Then you had Leaving Song Part 2, which starts with like a 20-second tapped intro, but it's like, okay, this is kind of cool. Can't say I ever heard it on the radio, though. It was a single, but I never heard it on the radio. And they have Silver and Cold, which starts with like a calm piano intro, and then boom, drum fill. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da. And then guitar. That's how you start a single. You don't spend a minute and a half with a looping pedal just noodling around on guitar building. Like, no, you have to catch attention right away, and you have to know the difference between a single and an album cut. Especially on standards, but also when you're submitting premium. Because, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only curator who says this is not single material. It's a good song, but it's not single material.
And this is actually extremely good advice that you're giving right now for EDM producers specifically. This is, I can't even explain how great of advice this is, because a lot of what producers do when they're writing music, they have specifically intros and outros that are 15 to 30 seconds long that are just drum loops, usually. You know, it's your kick, snare, hats with some little background follies, and then maybe the bass line, or, you know, like a part of the intro lead that's going to be in the drop or the climax of the song. They've got that, and it's just, and then like the last 15 seconds or maybe 8 seconds of the intro is like a build up, and then you cut the drums out of the last bar, and then it goes into a big psh, into the breakdown, and maybe there's a vocal and it goes into like a breakdown lead. That's how electronic music is built and structured. And then the outro essentially is copy. It's essentially a copy of the intro on the last 30 seconds of the song. And a lot of the times what that's for is for DJing. Like a lot of like electronic music tracks are made for DJing because DJs are going to play them out and they have to be able to mix into them and all that stuff. However, most tracks, a lot of tracks today, and I even suggest this even just for like catalog reasons or submission reasons or playlisting reasons or radio, so like there's so many more benefits to writing two versions of your song. An original mix that is going to have that intro outro structure for your track for DJs. And then a radio edit. Cut the intros and outros out. Go right into the breakdown, or maybe even like 8 seconds before the build up into the like getting to the point, especially if there's a vocal. Start on that vocal right away. Like hook them with that good, nice, the first verse or chorus or whatever. Hook them right away. Cut that intro out, especially for the submission stuff. And now you have two versions of the song. Now you could technically say maybe you have an EP. I mean, they're technically the same song, but they're cut differently. But you can send those to, if you're getting them signed somewhere, like that can be a dual release. Now you're not releasing just one song, but you're releasing two. The radio edit, I guarantee, is going to do so much better on Spotify. It's going to get playlisted more. And you're probably going to get more approvals on SubmitHub with a radio edit. So this is such damn good advice that you're giving right now of like, make two versions of your song. Don't cut yourself off with just having an intro, outro, and being like, this is how it is. This is how it was made. This is how it's going to be released. This is how you're going to listen to it and judge it. Now you're just like, you're holding yourself back and not giving you the opportunity to be like, you know what? Maybe I need to cut this out for just the average listener who doesn't give a shit about the intro, outro. Tell you right now, the average listener of electronic music doesn't give a fuck about intros and outros. They don't care about those 30-second drum loops building into the breakdown. They don't care. Those are made for DJs. That's all that's there for. The only reason an intro and outro is there for, just for DJs. Everything else, the in-between stuff, the real meat and potatoes of the track, that is for the listener to enjoy. The intro and outro, no one cares about it. So cut that out when you're submitting this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I also think there is literally a difference between an album cut and a single. And that's not saying the album cut is a bad song. It's just saying that it's not a good introduction to a potential fan. So like, let's say, listener, you're going on a date. Are you gonna look like you're at home playing Xbox on a Saturday night? Or are you gonna, put a little effort in? You're gonna put some effort in. And that's not to say you're not a good guy or a good girl when you're at home in sweatpants playing Xbox. But that's your album cut right there. Like, you have a single to put out there. No pun intended, because if you're dating, you're probably single.
Yeah. We need you to have
I just
a sound
walked right
now
into
for-
that one.
There's number one. Where's the slide whistle? There we go. Opposite sound. Oh god.
Oh,
Beautiful
that
setup.
was too
Beautiful
bad.
execution.
but you have the single and you have the album cut, and you're not just gonna cut off the sweatpants, so you have cut off sweatpants and call that your single. Like, that's just gonna look like you wanted cut off jeans and you didn't quite make it there. This discussion, man, I am so sorry, but I'm having a blast.
No, it's beautiful. I love it.
But like, just to riff on that a little more, at the intro of New Politics' song "Yeah Yeah Yeah," first single they ever released. It's an electric guitar, clean, goes through the main riff of the song once, and then the drums come in and the distortion comes in, and they start yelling "Yeah Yeah Yeah." It's like, okay, it gets you a little intrigued. It leaves like 4 seconds at the front for the DJ to talk over. If it's a radio station, they can be like, "Yeah, here's New Politics, yeah, yeah, yeah," as it's fading in, and boom, song. 30 Seconds to Mars. What was the big song? What If I Wanted to Break? The Kill has a super long building synth intro, and then the vocals start with the drums in like that 6/8 pattern that they have. Radio edit just goes straight to the drums in the 6/8 pattern. The synth is gone. Like, you can have a radio edit that turns an album cut into a single, but you also have album cuts that no matter what you do, they're still album cuts. They're still you in front of your Xbox in sweatpants. Like, it goes both ways, and I was tying this into some point that I've now totally forgotten. Oh, you were saying that you cut the intro and the outro off, and they're about 30 seconds each. That is a minute you are cutting off for the Spotify version, for the playlist. And you know what that means? You get more plays more quickly. Because if it's in a playlist of like 8 songs, and you just cut each one of them down by 8 songs. Now, how long is the average EDM track?
3.5 minutes, probably. Maybe pushing 4.
So are you cutting it down to 2.5 to 3?
Probably, yeah.
Which is like the typical rock song length.
Mm-hmm.
So now what you can do is, with 8 songs on a, short album, long EP, whatever you want to call it. I think Spotify considers 8 songs an album. You now basically have cut 2 whole songs off of that without cutting any songs off. So if somebody puts that album on repeat, guess what? People can listen 5 times to every single song in the time that it would have taken to listen to 4 songs, or to the album 4 times, which means you now have gotten 8 more plays on Spotify in the same amount of time, which means you've gotten paid 8 more times in the same amount of time. Songs on Spotify, gotta make them short, sweet, to the point.
This is what's so great about lo-fi music, is every song is like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. It's so short. It gets to the point. It's easy music to put in the background, and they get so many damn streams because it doesn't take much to you could put an entire lo-fi EP or album on, and it just, every song feels like it's blending into the next one. There's a seamless transition. Doesn't feel like any specific beginning or end. And that is great for looping and just having in the background and getting those plays. It's the same thing like what you're talking about in terms of cut those intros and outros out, and you cut down how long it takes to actually listen, and every song feels fresh. Doesn't feel like, because when you have those long intros and outros in there, it feels repetitive. You can feel the repetitiveness. Like, it's like, okay, when are we going to get to where I want to go? Okay, let me skip ahead. Or you just get, nah, not this one, skip, and now you've just lost a stream.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Spotify pays out as long as you hit at least 30 seconds. They pay you for one whole stream. Doesn't matter if people listen to a 6-minute song or a 2-minute song, as long as it's at least 30 seconds, you get paid the same amount. So there's literally no point. And I'm looking at bands like Between the Buried and Me, who did this before Spotify was a thing, but they put out a 17-minute song. And it's like, dude, when you release it on Spotify, because it's in 5 distinct sections, like when you put it out on Spotify, I sincerely hope you cut that up, because then you'll get paid for each single one. Same for Green Day on American Idiot. They have songs that on Spotify are combined. Not separated, but combined. And they are separate songs on the album, on the CD. I'm like, why on earth would you do that? Because you are getting paid less for the same amount of streams. That makes no sense.
Yeah, nothing changes.
Yeah, and I totally know why they do it. Because there's, this is back in the day when you had a fade from one song to the next, gapless transition. And people are moving away from that because it doesn't do well with shuffle play or, playlisting, that kind of stuff. So that's why they do it. They don't want a bad jump in there. But it's still a stupid idea. I'd rather take a bad jump and get paid for it than lose half my money.
Spotify has like a mixing option anyways, where fade out, fade in, and a lot of the times you don't even notice it transition, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm in a new song.
Exactly.
So they have that feature. Yeah, it's whatever. I'm sure we could probably do an entire podcast episode on our gripes of the industry and stupid decisions.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of stupid decisions, I'm going to bring it back to SubmitHub. And, there's other stuff that we can still talk about with SubmitHub, but one of my pet peeves, artists, when you get approved, reply to your messages.
Oh, good Lord.
It is like pulling teeth. So for RMP, when we do a shout out or a post, we also do an Instagram audiogram with it. And for that, we need copyright permission and we need the audio file. Literally at least half the time when I request the audio file and the copyright permission, which they have indicated that they can give, it's like 3 days, no response. 4 days, no response. I'm like, okay, I'll follow up with them. A couple more days, no response. And then there's a feature that lets you request an update. And this works for submitters as well. So you can do this to curators and labels can do it right back to you. Same influencers as well. And basically what that means is when a curator does it to you, you have 72 hours to respond, or they get to keep your money for free. They don't have to do anything, but they keep your money. If you're an artist and you do that to a curator, they have 72 hours to respond, or you get your credits back. Most of the time, when I do that, it'll be like, I'll send it in, they have 72 hours to respond after I've already waited 3 to 4 days. And then on the 3rd day, right before it runs out, they'll be like, oh yeah, here's the stuff. It's like, great, you just threw off my whole posting schedule for the week. I said I'd share it within a week of the release. Now it's going to be 3 weeks from now because it's going at the back of the line.
Guess who's never getting approval again?
That too. When that happens, I most often just block them because I don't have to refund them in the future. I don't see oh, hey, I approved them in the past. Oh, this sounds good. I'm going to approve them again and forget that happened. I'm just nope. I had to request an update. Block so they cannot submit to me anymore.
Blacklisted. Such a fast way.
Exactly. So honestly, it takes 10 seconds to log into submithub.com. Every single day, go there and check your messages if you have an active campaign. If you don't have an active campaign with approvals outstanding, whatever. You don't have to check it, every day, 365 days of the year. But if you submitted and you have approvals that have not been shared yet, check it every single day. There's no excuse for that. And, this is not something that I do often, but sometimes, I've had artists where they reply but don't do it. So I just mark it as shared. I'm like, here's our homepage. I couldn't share it. I didn't get the info. You responded, so the escalation canceled, but you still didn't send what I need. I'm sorry. I did my best. Here's
the chat log is there.
Right, exactly.
Out. It's in your court.
Yeah. By the time I've asked 4 times, it's I don't care anymore. If they go to SubmitHub, SubmitHub's going to be well, they asked 4 times. Like, and this is SubmitHub recommends this too in the bloggers chat room. If like if this is a recurring issue, they cancel the escalation that you sent, but do nothing. Like then just mark it as shared, like and leave a note explaining it. So it's not like this is something that you shouldn't do, but this is a warning for submitters. Reply to people, especially if they request an update. Don't mark it as seen and then do nothing. Like that's just stupid. Excuse me, like I'm getting upset, but like you're trying to get people to share your music. Make it easy for them.
This is where
Like,
we get into the personal
Yeah.
personal responsibility part of the episode. God
Yeah.
damn it. Artists, be more responsible. Respect people's time. Especially like what you're saying with like these are people who are interested in your music. What like there's nothing more that an artist wants than people to be interested in their music. You're on SubmitHub for a reason, right? You want your stuff to be shared. Someone wants to share it, like at least respond with anything. Even if you're like, listen, you know, no, I don't want to go with you. I'm not going to send anything. Sorry for wasting your time. Doesn't matter. Just give a fucking response to something.
Yeah. And, you know, I just want to mention this. I know life happens. Things, you know, people have a tough time, especially the last year and a half. Like, that is totally understandable. I can empathize with that. But lately, it's been like literally 50% or more. Half of my approvals just ghost as soon as it's approved. A couple of weeks ago, I had one artist that I had to escalate on them, and they signed the copyright and didn't even send like an, oh, we're so sorry. Like, they just like signed it and didn't say anything. And this ties into my next point, which is rejection hurts on SubmitHub, and especially I know that a lot of curators don't write good feedback. Like, especially like the Spotify playlisters. I'm a blogger and I'm an audio engineer, so I can speak about music with some eloquence. I'm not saying I'm Butch Vig or, you know, anybody like that. I'm not formally trained, but I know terms and I know what sounds good to me and I know how to improve stuff. A lot of curators don't, and especially like the Spotify curators, like I was saying, they don't write about music. They just have a vibe that fits on a playlist that people like that vibe. So they don't even necessarily know how to write good feedback because they've never written in the past. And that is something that SubmitHub looks out for. Like if it gets really bad, they'll reach out to people and say like, hey, like you should look into this. But at the same time, as much as it stings to get rejection, do not ever react badly to a curator. There are some artists that just 1 star every single rejection out there. And I can tell you right now, those artists, they're probably going to lose a lot of curators that they can submit to. Like for me, because I know my feedback is good. Maybe the artist doesn't agree. That's fine. Personal differences, music is subjective. But if they don't agree with me when I'm giving objective feedback on how to improve a mix, I don't want to write feedback for them again in the future and get another low rating. So I don't deal with them. I say, okay, block them. That's fine. It does not matter to me. Like, I love music, but I love music. I don't want to be stressed out by music. So if there's an artist that I know is going to leave me a 1-star rating just because they're upset that they got declined, like I can empathize with that. But at the same time, I don't want to deal with them in the future. And, you know, there's a blogger's chat room. I know I'm not the only blogger who does that. You know, there's other curators who do that. Don't give people anything less than a 5-star rating unless you never plan to submit to that person in the future, because you never know who might block you. I don't block everyone, but I certainly block everyone who 1 stars. Like if it's 4 stars and they have a good reason and they left feedback about what I could improve on, I'm not going to block them. They have a fair point. But if they do a 1 star with no response, because you can leave a response too, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that.
I don't blame you at all. There's 2 points I'm going to make here. One is going to be the people that are leaving those 1-star reviews with no critical feedback in regards to, or no critical response in terms of your feedback of like, I don't agree with this because of, you know, A, B, and C, or even the people who are just like, yeah, they just 1-star every rejection that they get. Those people probably aren't going to go anywhere. I mean, realistically,
Oh no, they aren't. I just want to throw out there, you know, when I get a low rating, I listen back to the track again, and almost always they're the worst ones that we've ever received. Like when it's a 1-star, it's just the lack of self-awareness. They think, oh, this is a hit. This person doesn't see it, 1 star, and like I can empathize with that because like that's a mindset thing. maybe there's some mental health stuff going on there. I can empathize. But it's also not my problem, and like I said,
Yep.
I don't want to deal with them in the future.
Yep, they're probably not going to be all that successful. So and I'm actually going to do, because, ooh, man, cold outreach is either hit or miss. It's a lot of these artists that are that way, that are the 1-stars. They're the people 1-starring. They can't take rejection, and they don't handle criticism well.
Yeah.
And so
I find that the better an artist is musically, the more talent they have, the more likely they are to react well to rejection because they have confidence. To pull out a specific example, I think it was a 3-star rating a couple weeks ago because I told this guy, like, hey, your song rating's really good. As a whole, I like your production and mix, but your snare is super loud and has a lot of low, mid, mud. Like, honestly, if it weren't for that one thing, I would probably approve this, but it just does not sound good to me. And then he 3-starred it and said minor technical detail. It's like, yeah, minor technical detail. But when I'm getting 100 songs a week that don't have minor technical
it's
details,
going to stick out.
yeah, I'm going to pick one of those rather than yours. It's a tough market, but I guess the point here is don't take your rejection out on the curators, because if the curators start sharing bad music, they lose their audience, and then the shares become worthless, and the curators aren't going to have an audience, so they're not going to be on SubmitHub anymore, potentially. So it's, don't bite the hand that feeds. And again, I'm not saying that every curator does a good job. Like, there are curators that don't do well. And if there's a curator that just said something so stupid that you never want to submit to them again, yeah, let them have it. Give them a 1-star. Like, that's totally fine. Just know that, don't do that if you're not planning. Don't do that if you are planning to submit to them again. Then you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Here's the other thing. When a curator reviews your submission, they can see past submissions from you, and they can see that rating. So even if you have not blocked them, if you, left a low rating on it, they might just see that and refund you. Or they might see that and, like, write the best feedback they've ever written and decline it just out of spite. Now, I'm not saying I do that. If in that case, I just refund it. But I could conceivably see some other curators being like, I like this, but I'm going to decline it just because, like, who cares if they give me another low rating? For me, I don't want to deal with another low rating, so I'm just like, yeah, whatever, refund. Those ratings are seen by curators, and they are specifically shown when you submit again. So the best thing you can do is, suck up a little bit. Like, even if it wasn't the best feedback, if it was acceptable, give them the 5 stars, say, hey, thanks so much for listening to the track. We'd really appreciate it. We'll try again. Maybe next time it'll be a fit. And then it'll be like, hey, you know what? This person took my feedback. Okay. And the best thing that I love the most is seeing artists who put in their quick pitch, which is like a little field you can fill in. Hey, thanks so much for your feedback about XYZ element of the song. We made sure to pay attention to that in this new song. Here you go. I've had other artists rework the song, do a remix, and be like, hey, we remixed it. One of them had an intro in a music video that was super long. They're like, yeah, we cut the intro out, so now it just goes to the song. I'm like, yep, I'm approving that. I liked the song. So, rejection sucks, but sometimes it's literally just not a good fit. And if you fix that, the curator will share it, and they will appreciate it if you highlight that and send it to them again and say, like, hey, we listened. Like, that's probably going to turn it into an approval unless the curator was just BSing, in which case that's when I would give them a low rating.
Right. Well, and this is all about, like, you don't want to leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. Here's the thing. Like, a lot of, especially when you're on your level of a curator, I'm sure, you probably know a lot of other big curators that are also on SubmitHub. Like, you talk with these people, you're friends with them. So that's something you need to keep in mind. People talk about other people. People talk about the best things they find. And then what's the other thing they talk about? They talk about the worst things they find. They talk about the worst reviews. They talk like people look for bad things. So when you give, like what you're saying, if you submit to James here and he rejects you and gives you a 3-star and you just 1-star them, you're like, you know what? Fuck you, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. James is going to block you and probably tell.
Which has happened.
He will.
People have told me that.
He will tell everyone about how shitty of a person you are, or if someone else mentions your name and James goes, "I remember that piece of shit." Like, people talk, so you don't want to run your mouth and give yourself a bad. And I've talked about this so many times, especially with labels, because labels are the big thing with our industry. Is everyone's trying to get a single sign to labels, and so I tell a lot of amateur producers this: when you've only been writing for 2 or 3 years, you're probably not ready to sign to the biggest labels in the industry, and yet they will submit time and time again these terrible tracks to these labels. When they listen to the 3rd or 4th track and they go, "I remember this name, he's already sent in so many bad songs," they're just going to delete it, or they're going to mark you as spam. They're going to do something to stop getting those, because they're getting hundreds of submissions a day. And if they go, "Oh, we already know this person doesn't send the best music, we're just going to outright, block them so we don't get that. That'll clear up our work. We'll be, well, now you fucked yourself." So if in 3 years you are really good and you are ready to release with them, well, now they know they're not getting any of your emails now. And same thing with SubmitHub.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something on that note. Feel free to rebrand. Like, if you've been that person, it might be time to just pick a new name.
Rebrand.
Like, change it up.
Definitely.
And disassociate yourself from the former identity, the former brand.
Get a new haircut, put some fake glasses on, wear new clothes, change your name. Rebrand.
But also don't make the mistake of Mouse Rat and Rat Mouse and Three Skin and whatever other names that band chose in Parks and Rec. Like, they had like 20 different names over the series.
Jesus, that is ridiculous.
I knew a local band that did that.
That just rebranded, like rearranged their name?
Yeah, I think it was 4 times. Let's see. They were, I don't even remember the order, but Nautica, A Colorful Symphony, and Stay Home were 3 names that I remember. And then I think there was a 4th name in there.
That's too much.
And there was one time that they asked if they should change it to Lawn Knives, and I was like, no, just
keep
no.
it. Long Knives, that's such a bad name.
Lawn Knives, like
lawn
mowing
knives,
the lawn.
Oh my god.
That's why I was like, do not do it.
It's even worse than Long Knives.
Yeah, so feel free to rebrand. Don't do it too often.
Don't do it too often. There is a one rebrand is good, maybe 2.
Yeah.
2's pushing it, but the one rebrand is usually all you need. Okay, so let's start. I'm curious, because we do need to wrap up here pretty soon. Let's get into, what's your gripe with labels on SubmitHub?
Personally, I just don't have a use for them. Most of the artists I work with, due to the size and relative potency, let's say, of the labels on SubmitHub, most of them are kind of on the smaller end. That's not to say they're bad, but I'm a strong believer of, until you can't do it for yourself, do it for yourself, or hire somebody who can at a flat rate. And so, for example, a lot of bands hire a publicist at a flat rate for like $800 a month or whatever it is. And I'm like, why on earth would you waste that money? Do you realize that, you can go on SubmitHub, you can send emails to curators that aren't on SubmitHub, you can go to other platforms, so SubmitHub is the largest one. You can do all this yourself, and yeah, you know what? It takes some time, but unless you're earning $800 or whatever you're paying that publicist in that amount of time, it's not worth it. Don't be lazy. Do it yourself. And publicists aren't the only thing. Like, I see a lot of bands looking for a manager, and I'm like, why? Why would you do that? You get like 2 emails a week. You don't need a manager for that. Unless this is a manager that is truly invested in your music and is going to do a good job for you.
One that doesn't really take a cut.
Yeah. Like, to go back to I Fight Dragons, they got really lucky with a manager named JJ. And he was back in like 2008 when Flowbots made it big. He was Flowbots manager, and he loved I Fight Dragons music. So they signed with him, and he got them a major label deal. And it ended up not working out. He got them out of the major label deal. And this is something we talked about when Brian was on the podcast. Brian from I Fight Dragons. I can't remember the episode off the top of my head, but if you go to the Bandhive podcast, it's in like I want to say 78, 77, high 70s.
I'll pull it and put it on the show notes.
Oh, thank you. He talked about how they re-released their original 2 EPs. The first EP was not on the label, and the second one was on the label, but part of the label deal was that the label bought the first EP's master rights. And so I was like, yeah, that must have been tough for you to re-release those 2 EPs. And he goes, yeah, well, actually, our manager, JJ, was awesome, and he got us the deal. And then when he got us off the deal, because we said we don't want to be with the label anymore, he actually negotiated that we have the rights for all physical copies. We can make whatever physical copies we want. They still retain the digital version, so digital sales, streaming, all that stuff goes to the label. But if the band wants to make physical copies, they can make physical copies. And I'm like, that is badass. That is a good manager who clearly cares about the act.
And knows what he's doing in negotiations.
Right. And has connections. This was at Atlantic Records. It was an imprint called Photo Finish. Which I can't remember if it's 303 or Cobra Starship. One of them was on it. Yeah, so Cobra Starship was on the other one then, which was, it was not Atlantic. It was Fueled by Ramen, I think, was Cobra Starship.
I don't remember that label.
I can't remember for sure. The tour that I remember specifically was 303, Cobra Starship, Travie McCoy, and I Fight Dragons. I was working for I Fight Dragons for the one show. And 2 of the acts were Photo Finish, and 2 were a different label, which might have been Fueled by Ramen.
All under Atlantic, though?
I'm not sure. I know Fueled by Ramen got bought out, but I don't know if it was Atlantic, which is Atlantic's part of Warner. Main thing being, he had the connections to get them on a label and to get them off the label with his clout. So it's important stuff to have the right manager. Don't just jump for the first person that says, yeah, I'll manage you. It's like, well, what can you do for us? What are we paying you for?
This bleeds into every single artist in the industry. It doesn't matter. Genre doesn't fucking matter. Genre aside, every single band, artist, DJ, singer-songwriter, they're always like, when's that manager coming? They don't even have a label release or maybe one release, and they're like, when's that manager coming? We want a manager. And I did a whole episode on this. I can't remember I don't remember the episode, but it was why you don't need a manager yet. Because it is like the manager's not going to do anything for you. If you're going to find a good manager, it's probably going to cost you money because the manager probably does that for a living and you probably can't afford them because they have to feed their family. And you probably, even if you could afford them, they probably won't take you because you might not have anything to offer to them that they can pitch to anyone, get you signed anywhere, or get you booked anywhere. You're not going to go anywhere because you're not there yet. You're not ready. Like you could have one release, have all the money in the world, no fans, no social following, and be like, I'm ready for a manager and start talking to a manager. And the manager's going to look at you and go, what the fuck do you have? Like you've got nothing to offer.
And that's the thing. Like if you're getting major label offers, you might need a manager.
Yeah.
But you want a manager who's not just going to skate by and be like, oh, you're on major label, cool, I'll get free money. Like, that's not what you want. You also, if the label offers to give you a manager, no, run away. Because that manager is going to be looking out for the label rather than you.
Yeah, 100%.
Ask around and find a manager who's good at what they do, but is independent of the label you're signing with. If they're with a different label and they're involved with that, that's fine. As long as you're like, hey, no conflict of interest. We're with this label. You look out for us. Not this label, not your label. But by no means should you ever go with a label manager for the label that you are working with. That's just a bad idea. And it's the same thing. Until you do not have the time to do something where that takes away from your other business activities, you should not outsource it. I hear people say, I don't know what to do. Okay, you're listening to a podcast right now. This podcast is teaching you how to do these things. Christian, I don't know if you take topic requests, but if you do, tell people how to take topic requests, because then if they don't know how to do something, they can ask you and you can do a show about it.
Yes, 100%. If anyone has a topic, and I've said this before too, go to enviousaudio.com/podcast. Just scroll down and you'll see the form that you can fill out to reach out. And if you have any requests, you have any questions, fill them out. Trust me, I'm dying for content ideas all the time. I would love new ideas. It's a process coming up with new ideas. So if you have anything you're struggling with, go fill out that form and I guarantee I'll put it on my list and make an episode about it. It's incredible the time we're living. The ability that we have, one, to be recording this podcast, you to be consuming this podcast. There's no other time in the history of the earth, of the human race, that we've been able to do what we're doing here and now. And it's the same thing from like 30 or 40 years ago. You couldn't self-release. You know how hard it was to just distribute your own music all over it was so hard to get anywhere without a label. Now it is, everyone has a song. Everyone has something on SoundCloud. Like,
what's the statistic? I think 40,000 a week are added to Spotify, something like that.
It's crazy. You walk down the street, the main street of whatever town you're in, and I guarantee you'll walk by 3 or 4 people that probably have a song either on Spotify or SoundCloud. Like, it's so easy to get your music out there. And if it's that easy to get it out there, it's that easy to figure out what you need to do to market it and promote it yourself. And you don't need those other sources currently to get you to where you need to be, to where you will need that manager, or maybe even labels help or whatever. Because I mean, that's like what we were talking about before. When a label's taking 70%, it should be that they have something you cannot get on your own. There's an audience reach that they have that you don't have. There's something that you don't have that they do that's going to significantly help you. If that's the case, then that label release is probably going to be for you. But if that label has nothing to offer, don't give up a huge percentage. It just doesn't make sense. There's nothing for you there that you can't do on your own or figure out. Like, so much. Oh, we could rant on this forever, man, because it's so
absolutely.
Like, and artists don't listen too. That's the struggle too. Is you'll yell at them in their face and they'll be like, I still want to go this route.
Yeah, and something that maybe they have to learn it from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there'll be that 1 in 1,000 artist that has a good time with it.
Yeah.
But to tie that all back in, this is why I don't use the label portion of SubmitHub. Not because I think the labels aren't good. Like, I'm sure there are good ones there. I haven't really looked at it because none of the clients that I've been working with have either expressed an interest in it or had the need for it. Like, if an artist isn't ready for it, I'm just going to say, like, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. If you want to submit to them, go for it, but I'm not going to do it for you. Like, I'm washing my hands of that. And that goes for so many things. Like, it's tough. And like you said, artists don't listen. It's a struggle.
We love you guys. We love you, artists. You
and
make great music.
Too. Like, that's why we're involved with this.
The music is awesome, but stubborn.
Yeah.
I'm stubborn. I want to throw one. Though.
Oh, same. I'm very absolutely. Stubborn. I think podcasters in general have to be stubborn to stick with doing a show every week or two or whatever it is.
For real.
I want to throw something else out there though, which is artists. How much do you spend on education on how to run a better business? For a lot of you, I'm going to guess that number is between $0 and $50. Maybe you bought a book. Maybe you subscribe to some magazine, whatever it is. Why don't you go find somebody who's an expert in whatever field you want to learn of the music industry, because they are out there. Make sure you find someone reliable. They probably have a course. If that course has a refund guarantee, which most courses do, 30 days, 60 days, whatever, buy it. Even if it's $500 or $1,000, just buy it. Take a look at it. See if it's useful to you. If it is, great. If not, refund. Just make sure you do it before the time runs out, because most people will say, hey, we give you a whole month. We're not going to, it's been a month and a half. Sorry. Just do that. Because even if it's $500 or $1,000 or whatever, that beats the hell out of paying a publicist $800 a month every month to handle the 2 incoming emails you get that you could literally have done, and you probably, by taking, XYZ course, could have turned that into 20 incoming emails a week with actual opportunities for you. I get it seems nice and easy to have a publicist, a manager,
And
agent,
cool.
whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. There's a cool factor to it. But then when you complain about spending money on a course or something that will make you as a person better, no, just focus on that. And maybe then you will find that you are good at this thing and you can become a publicist or a manager or whatever and actually be a good example and set that example for other artists to say, like, this is what a good manager does. Those people over there, no, they suck. Don't go with them. Here's what you need to do, and then you can show them. Be a mentor to them. Like, that's the way to go. If you're gonna spend money, invest in yourself until it's at the point where any further investment in yourself, I'm not saying stop investing in yourself, but where that would have a lesser impact than bringing on somebody else to your team.
I could not have said that better. That was perfect.
Thank you.
This is exactly why I bring outside people in, because there's so many, lot of words of wisdom to come from other parts of the industry. And for people who are listening, listen to James, because damn, knowledge bomb. Dropped a massive knowledge bomb. Thank you so much. James, let's wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to jump on real quick about SubmitHub? Otherwise, go ahead and plug anything that you'd like to plug, and just give any ending advice.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much for having me here. I'm always happy to nerd about. I'm always happy to nerd out about the music industry. That I hope you leave that in too, because I cannot talk. Like, okay, good.
I will.
Slide whistle. I love to nerd out about the music industry. As anyone listening can tell, I get sidetracked. I love just talking about music and business in general. I apologize that this episode is all about SubmitHub, and maybe a quarter of it was actually about SubmitHub. But as I was saying at the start of this all, when I put out content, I try to put out content that makes you think and isn't just like step 1, step 2, step 3. So I hope that everything we talked about today makes you think about how you can make a better SubmitHub campaign and how you can be a better artist who runs a business and, hopefully a successful business. But because we did get sidetracked so much, I'm going to shout out where you can get the free email course that Christian mentioned reading at the beginning of this. Just go to bandhive.rocks/EDM. That's a special link just for all you electronic dance money listeners, so you can sign up for the course for free. And then as you're going through it, feel free to hit reply on any of those emails and ask me if you have questions. And I'm totally happy to get back to you with the best answer that I can provide, and maybe some like mid-2000s scene band puns as well. Who knows?
You can CC me. Go ahead and CC me on those too if you need some advice specifically with EDM stuff.
Okay, I will CC.
Get the slide whistle, damn it.
Anyway, again, that link is bandhive.rocks/EDM. We have a cool link. We're not a .com because that was like $3,000. So it's like, well, cool. We rock. So it's bandhive.rocks.
Oh, that's ridiculous, man. That domain business, sometimes it's lucrative.
Oh, yeah. I haven't checked it in a while, so after we hang up, I'm going to go check it again, and maybe I'll buy it.
Oh, man. Dude, thank you so much. This is a lot of fun, James. I'm sure there's going to be something that I see you talking about again, either in your emails or online, that'll be like, all right, we got to get on the line again, do another podcast episode. But 2 hours goes by just like that. Thank you so much, James. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon, man.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks so much, Christian. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week.
You too. Take care. Thanks for hanging out and checking out this episode of Electronic Dance Money, guys. This was such a fun episode. I hope you enjoyed. James, go check out Bandhive. Like I said, it's good to learn things from other people in different parts of the industry, even if it's not directly related to your genre and what you're working in. James is a super knowledgeable guy, and their podcast has a ridiculous amount of information. I cannot recommend it enough. Go check it out. If you want any of the links of any of the things we talked about in today's episode, just head to enviousaudio.com/episode 62 to check out the show notes, and I'll see you guys next time.